Three, two, one.
Hello and welcome back to DBAD, the Don't Be a Dickhead podcast. I'm John Gilbert.
I'm Ian Thompson.
I'm Alex King.
Welcome back. So this is episode 9. So if you've stuck with us for 9 episodes, congratulations, well done. We're just going to, before we jump into today's topic, we thought we'd just kind of introduce ourselves because we do have a new co-host, Alex King, who you've just heard from. And
Hello.
along with old hats, Ian Thompson and I. So, I don't know, who wants to explain? How do we know each other?
I know you guys from Eskimo Soup. I've known John for, 7 years now, John?
Something like that.
Yeah, I started off doing my apprenticeship in admin and business, and that was with Eskimo Soup about 7 years ago.
Yeah, so there's basically where we work, we've got Eskimo Soup upstairs and we've got Storyboard Media that I run with John downstairs. But we work quite closely together anyway, don't we? So Alex has only had to put up with me now for just over a year. She's known John for 7 years, so I imagine she thinks John's a bigger dickhead. But I mean, who knows? Maybe I've managed to go through 7 years of dickheadery in the last 14 months.
Yeah, it's the depth of dickheadity, not the quantity that counts.
It's not.
Quality over quantity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is something that we've been talking about doing for quite a while. On a previous podcast that Ian and I did, the Marketing Brainstorm, we talked about how we could try to modify behaviour for people online, and we didn't think that Be Kind quite cut it, and this was before Be Kind was a thing, by the way. And actually we need to be more direct and tell people not to be a dickhead. But we've been exploring over the episodes what we actually mean by this. We don't mean to be belittling people. We don't mean to be self-righteous. We do mean to be self-righteous. But we are there just trying to help people take a moment to reflect on something that you may have done or something that you might be about to do and think, does this make the world a better place? Or if I do this, will it make me more of a dickhead?
Ta-da!
Okay, so we have a topic for today. That topic is food. So we're talking about dickheadery around food, and we do have some contributions from our community. So before I start, what is that noise?
It's me. I'm eating crisps very loudly because anyone who does that is a dickhead.
There was a bit
I
room
agree with
101
there.
Eating loudly. Do you know what's even worse than eating loudly? Eating and chomping or eating with your mouth open, yeah. But even worse than doing that is doing it while you're on the phone with someone. Imagine that.
What about a Skype call?
And it's right in your ear.
So when you're talking about eating on the phone, is this aimed at Alex or I? It sounded like
No,
maybe we
it's
were.
not. It's not aimed at either of you. It's just aimed at people who, and various people have done it to me in my life. I'm not a young man anymore. And so, I've had to go through a lot. And one of the things I've been through is people eating loudly on the phone to me. It doesn't happen very often. It's usually when you ring someone and they're, I'm just about to start my dinner. I'll be, all right, well, I'll let you go. And they'll be like, all right, well, I'll just tell you this quickly though. Then they'll start telling you, but they'll also try and get a little bit of dinner in. And it's like, no, woman, you can either talk to me or you can eat your dinner, but you're not having both.
So I can promise you, Ian, I've never done that to you. But I think you have worked out that you've caught me in the toilet before.
Yes.
And I have finished the job.
There's a certain reverb to a toilet, isn't there?
Yeah, and the shuffling of papers.
Oh, God.
But never too loudly.
Yeah.
We're on the topic of food, just trying to wrestle us away from that horrific image I've just created there. Have you seen any kind of dickheadery around the whole topic of food?
Yeah, I've got quite a lot to do with. I'm quite passionate about food in general. But one thing that does really bother me is, and I think Sally, John's wife, brought it up as well. It's when people in restaurants that don't say sort of please and thank you to the waiters. This really bothers me. I think I am slightly over. I maybe go a bit overboard with it and say thank you 6 times when someone's taken my plate away. But I don't think you can ever be too polite, and it just really bothers me if I was with someone, or if I overhear someone just even acknowledge that the person's there. I think that is a dickhead thing to do.
That's good. Yeah, we always talk, don't we, every episode about whether something reaches like dickhead level, and this is something that definitely reaches dickhead level. And I think we've got there straight away. I don't think you can be overly thankful, Alex, when you say like you thank people 6 times when they're collecting your plate and things. I don't think you can. I think it's always good to be polite to people and start a bit of conversation with them, maybe a bit of small talk, chat to them a bit. There's no reason why you wouldn't. Like, you'd always chat to your work colleagues. Well, most people would anyway.
Yeah.
Why not chat to them when they're at work as well? There's no problem in doing that. I remember going out for a meal in Atlanta once with an American guy, and he was going out of his way to be rude to them.
Yeah,
which I thought was
bothers me.
Top dickhead.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that gives you a real assessment of somebody's character. I think driving does it as well. I think the way that people treat, and I'm being, I said it's in inverted commas, like little people, the way that they treat the little people, if they mistreat the little people, I think it says a lot about you. And those of us that see each other as equals and actually give each other the common decency, hopefully it shows that we are above dickheadery.
Yeah.
I do think you can say thank you too much, though. I must admit, I found myself in situations where thinking, I'm just thanking this person for every little tiny thing that they do, particularly if it's one of those, like, a nicer place where they just come along and start, like, adjusting things on your table that you were quite happy with where they were, but you've still got to feel you've got to thank them. I'm like, I'm thanking you for something I didn't want you to do and that I deem completely unnecessary.
I remember once being at a restaurant. It was at a pub kind of thing. I ordered, as I always do if it's on the menu, I ordered pie. And it was really nice, I can't remember what it was. I think it was like wild boar or something. It was really nice. And they brought me this pie, and it had some fries or something like that on the side. And then it also had a little thing of gravy. But they brought me it on a wooden slab. I was like, the waiter was there. I said, I'm really sorry. I said, can I get a plate? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, can I get a plate to put this on? I said, I'll decant it onto the plate, it's no problem. But I just want a plate to put it on. And he's like, oh, it comes on that board. I was like, that's absolutely fine, but I'm about to pour gravy on this. If you want to clean the table afterwards, that's fine. But the gravy's going to go everywhere. So can I have a plate? And
Thank you.
Reluctantly, he gave me a plate.
I hope you
Did you thank him?
Yeah.
I imagine I did, yeah. I don't think I'm a rude man.
It also slightly bothers me as well. This is one that Pippa from Eskimo Soup, she brought up as well, is when you're in a restaurant, and obviously this can't be helped, but when you've ordered something, so I'm one that sort of pre-orders, so if I know that I'm going for something to eat the following day, I'll make sure that I've got a plan in my head of what I'm ordering. I'll look at the menu, and then when you go in, if say they haven't got it in, and then you've got to think on the spot of what you're going to order. And then you end up just ordering something just really shit and bland, and that's one thing that bothers me. Obviously this can't be helped, but that is something that bothers me also.
I think it can be helped.
That is incredible, the amount of prep that you put in there.
Yeah, when you said pre-order, I thought you meant you rang the restaurant the day before. No, I don't physically ring. I pre-order in my head. Just to check that they had the correct ingredients to make the dish that you have been imagining. It could be like 4 days in advance that I'm looking at the menu in the restaurant and just weighing up my options. Imagine waiting for days for this, what you're wanting, and it's not there. It's quite upsetting. But if you did call them in advance,
maybe I should start calling 4 days in advance.
And then you'd be guaranteed that you're not going to be disappointed.
Would that be a dickhead thing to do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. No, that would just be a well-organised thing to do.
I think they'd think that they were getting a food critic in.
Yeah, but I'm not a very good food critic, because I never, even if it's awful, I'll say it.
But I mean, where do we stop with this? You could just say, I'm going to be coming in tomorrow for a wild boar pie, and I want you to serve it to me on an appropriate plate with a rimmed edge so that I don't spill gravy all over myself.
An appropriate food vehicle.
An appropriate food vehicle makes me think of like a hot dog shaped van that sells hot dogs.
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, what else have people online been coming up with them?
Well, Jan Brumby,
I love
in
this
the
one.
response to this request, has just shot in quite a short sentence. So this is what dickheadery based around food. And she says, anyone who champions celeriac puree.
Right.
I absolutely love that. I mean, I don't agree with her. I think celeriac puree is lovely. But I love the fact that she's written it and the fact that she's used the word championing.
Well, I mean, how far do you have to go before you are championing something? So, for instance, is you saying, I don't agree with you, I think it's lovely, are you championing it? Would you consider yourself a champion of celeriac puree, Ian?
I mean, I don't know. Oh, God, I don't know.
It's like, I know Ian Thompson, man of the people, champion of celeriac puree.
I don't think I've ever made celeriac puree. I've made a very nice parsnip puree, and I've made a very nice carrot puree. I don't think I've ever done celeriac.
Yeah, but how nice were those purees? I mean, would you
They're
consider
very
yourself
nice.
a champion of parsnip puree?
I think the key is that you've got to season them correctly, otherwise they can be bland purees, I think.
So you're a champion of correctly seasoned.
I think I'm a champion of
I'm
seasoning.
a champion of seasoning.
It's crucial.
Excellent.
But what I don't like, actually, and this is another food one, is people who then, when you've made them some food and you believe you've seasoned it properly and you've tested, you've tasted it, and you think it's all fine. You take it to the table and they absolutely destroy it with salt.
We've spoken about this before, I think, Ian, and I disagree here. I feel like everybody's got their own taste, like a lot of salt. So I feel like I should be allowed to put a lot of salt on my dish.
Yeah, just don't get rid of the flavours I've already put in.
But would you put the salt on, Alex, before you've tried it?
I think I usually assume and just put a little bit of salt on it. I might try it again and then add extra
That's
salt.
dickheadery.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry
absolute
about that.
disgrace.
I think if you try it and then you think it's not salty enough for you, so you choose to add some more salt, then that's fine. But just assuming that Ian wouldn't have put a correct level of salt within the dish, he's a bit arrogant and dickheaded.
Maybe that's something that I need to sort of change.
You see, I always try things first, and if I feel it needs a bit more seasoning, I'll give it a bit more seasoning. If I'm in a restaurant or a bar or whatever and I get something and I think, I don't think that's seasoned well enough, so I'll add my own on, and I think that's absolutely fine. But I think you've got to taste it first.
Yeah.
You bastard.
I think bastard's extreme. This isn't the Don't Be a Bastard podcast. Also, if you're going to do that, it depends on how you do it. I think it's a bit more to it than that. So if we accept that you should taste the dish as the chef has prepared it and then modify it, you've got to be quite, I suppose, subtle about that. Because if you try it and then go, this is
Because then
bring more seasoning.
yeah.
That's bastardry.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been giving this some thought. I've got three issues I have with food. They're all quite distinct. First one, pubes.
What is this about?
There is no place for pubes in food, right?
I don't think anyone's disagreeing about that.
But, well, if they're not, why are they putting so much in? I get the thing about adding more seasoning once you've tried something. I've never once eaten a dish and thought, you know what this needs? More pubes. Pass
What
me the
about if they're
trimmers.
well-seasoned
and then,
pubes?
And have you got any pubes, mate? Across to the waiter when they come around. I mean, they come around. He's like, do you want any more condiments or do you want some pepper? No, but I will have some pubes. Never happened. So why are so many chefs putting them in there?
Where are you going to eat? Where are you eating?
I would say that in 1 in 4 dishes, I will find a pube.
Really?
And I'm not talking about stuff that I've made around the house. I mean, that's 1 in 2. But I'm talking about in public.
Right.
I have no idea where you're going.
Anywhere. There's just pubes.
Every now and then I find a hair.
Well, my definition of pube is fairly loose. So I include facial pube
Okay.
because that's what it is. Once you hit puberty and you grow a beard. So I can't guarantee that it's from the groin area. But they just seem to be, honestly, I would say it happens 1 in 4 occasions I will find a pube within the meal. To the point where I don't even comment on it anymore. I just put it to the side of the place and feel a little bit sad.
Do you ever like complain about it or?
Well, I complain about it on this podcast.
Do you complain about it
but
at
not
the
at the
time?
time, no. Well, I don't. You see, some of these restaurants where they have like, I'll tell you something that happened to me once, right? And it was the first time I went to a restaurant with a girl. By the way, all my stories about going on dates are also stories about me and my wife, because basically she was my first proper long-term girlfriend and we're still together. So, as I've mentioned this on previous episodes, so Sally and I went for a meal, and I just kind of was struggling to eat it because there were bits of broken glass in the food. And so after a while I was thinking, this is just, this can't be right. I don't go to restaurants very often. I'm a very working class kid, but I'm pretty sure that you're not supposed to have broken glass within it. So I did ask the waiter if they'd take a look at it, and it turns out that the broken glass was rock salt and it wasn't broken glass. Ever since then, I've been really cautious about any kind of complaint about wrongful ingredients. So I didn't know whether pubes were just like, I don't know, a form of seasoning. The rate at which I've discovered them, I'm sure they are.
Right, are you sure it's not like strands of saffron or something like that?
Do you know what? Next time I get one, I'm going to keep it. Do you know what I'm going to do? I mean, I can't at the moment because we're on lockdown, but once we're out of lockdown, I'm going to go around a tour of restaurants and I'm going to take a little plastic bag with me to keep samples of what I discover, and then we can put them under some kind of microscope or analysis, and we'll find out if it is pube or saffron. Pube or saffron. It's like a very low-rent game show.
So I'm going to avoid these places.
Yeah, it does sound odd. I mean, although what sort of gives me pause for thought is the fact that you thought that rock salt was glass. So I'm hoping that, bring back one of these pubes, we'll stick it in a bit of hot water. If it's called steeping it, and if the hot water turns a slightly sort of reddish colour, we'll know that it's just saffron.
Yeah, I think we need to.
I eat in places that give me saffron. Saffron's pricey, innit? Not the kind of places I'm going.
Well, no, clearly not if they're putting glass and pubes in your...
Okay. My other issue is about being judged for my food choices. And this bothered me, about 20 years ago now, when I got my first proper job. And I'll be honest, I was quite overweight then, and I did eat shit, right? But that was my prerogative. But if I went to the chippy, all of my colleagues would go, oh, gone to the chippies, and it just made me feel shit about myself that I was eating this greasy bad food. Now, okay, I was probably eating more than I should have been, but I didn't think it was their place to point that out. I knew that, and it was just like after then I was thinking I've like got to eat healthier, or with less pubes in my sandwich, because I just felt like I was being judged.
I feel like that's a dickhead thing to do. I think it's no one else's place to tell someone, I think, should and shouldn't eat. A grown adult can decide that for themselves, I feel. And I feel that as well with sort of eating meat and not eating meat. So quite recently I've decided to not eat meat and become a vegetarian. That's just something that I've wanted to do for a long time. But I do feel like it is a bit of a dickhead thing to do when people either make another person feel bad for eating meat or not eating meat. Because I know that vegetarians and vegans they've got sort of like a negative stereotype, I feel now, that they're like a preach to people to not eat meat. But I think it can also be the other way around. Like, people can be made to feel bad when they don't eat meat because they can be questioned on it. And I understand being interested in it, but I think that can quite easily come across as you saying, well, why are you doing that? Like, animals die all the time anyway. Like, you do get that sort of attitude a lot towards it. So I think everyone has their own choice of what they just want to eat. And I think it's just a bit of a dickhead thing to do, just to pass comment on it personally.
On that, I asked someone earlier about what they thought about food dickheadery and things, because they don't eat a lot of meat. They're not vegetarian, but they don't eat a lot of meat, and they'd said vegetarian food that's made to taste or to feel like meat really, really gets them. There's like, if I don't eat meat, if I don't like mince, then why would I want to eat something that isn't mince that still feels like mince? Because I hate the texture.
It's not about not liking meat. I've always liked the actual taste of meat. I'm a massive foodie, but it's more the ethical side of it. So I'll still want to eat food that I enjoy. At least I don't feel guilty afterwards. But I do understand people. I do understand that.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, it's more not feeling guilt, I guess.
Yeah, the general point though, about getting judged for your choices that John brought up, and then you mentioned with vegetarianism and things. Well done for doing that, by the way. Don't agree with you, but well done. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I really enjoy eating really shit things sometimes. My favourite food ever is just a nice cheese and salad cream sandwich, maybe with a bit of cucumber in, and I could quite happily eat that for all 3 meals a day. And yeah, I often feel that people judge me for it slightly when I overeat cheese and salad cream sandwiches.
So my third thing that I wanted to share was about unsung washing up heroes. Now, I don't mean here like the waiting staff and the kitchen staff in a restaurant, which we've already discussed. What I'm talking here is about domestically. So if you take Christmas dinner, for example, and let's say Sally has prepared a wonderful meal for us, rightly, she will get the acknowledgement that she deserves, right? Because she's worked hard, she's used her skills, and that's been great. I'll tell you who doesn't get any credit that I feel he deserves, me, for then washing all of that up, because it takes at least 2 hours to tidy everything up while everybody else is sitting at the dinner table getting pissed. Now, I don't expect the level of adulation that Sally gets from her cooking skills, because I appreciate, as somebody who has worked in a kitchen, it takes more skills to prepare food than it does to wash up the pots afterwards. However, the amount of graft and the sacrifice that goes into doing that by not being able to just sit there, rub your belly and feel good about yourself and carry on drinking is something that I feel goes under-recognised.
This is brilliant, because when I read this on our notes before the show, our pre-show notes, then I saw that it said unsung washing up heroes, and I thought it was going to be about pot washing and things like that. I didn't realise it was just going to be about you.
Well, at the risk of going beyond dickheadery, I imagine that there are other people in that situation. I don't think it's just about me. I speak on behalf of all of the unsung washing up heroes out there. I don't know, maybe as a nation we should stand on our doorstep and give them a clap every evening. Something like that. Something
it's
that
a
really
nice
shows
idea.
a recognition.
Why don't we do it next Thursday, say 8 o'clock?
So whilst I'm not going to pretend that this is just for the unsung washing up heroes, I'm going to be applauding the NHS and key workers. I have to do that. I'm married to one, and she's usually standing there beside me while we're doing it. And we do actually make a thing of it in our family. So I don't want to kind of make a joke about that, but I will, within my mind, also be applauding the unsung washing up heroes out there.
And giving a little thanks to everyone.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
do you know what they'll then be known as? Sung washing up heroes.
Nice.
I believe we've got some suggestions from the community.
Yeah, I've had a few people messaging on social media and things like that. Matt Sutton was saying about people eating and sucking their fingers like they think they're Brad Pitt or something, which is really nice, because he's talking about the fact that whenever Brad Pitt's on screen, he's always got some food in his hand and he's always eating, and he's really good at acting and eating at the same time. And so he said he hates it when people think they're Brad Pitt or something and are just constantly sucking their fingers and eating and whatnot while they're talking to you. Which is a good point. If you're sucking your fingers, you haven't ordered enough food.
Well, I didn't know that was a thing. If I saw somebody sucking their fingers, I don't know. I don't think they'd be channeling Brad Pitt.
Well, no, it's just if you've been eating something with your hands, I don't think they do it if you've been politely just eating something with a knife and fork and then you suck your fingers afterwards. I think, that's just weird.
Good point. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah. And then Hayley Williams-Ascree has put in saying, I was once called a dickhead by someone for eating a burger with a knife and fork. And quite a few other people mentioned a similar thing about pizzas. Just interesting that she was called a dickhead.
I feel like it depends where you are. I feel like I'm not going to eat if like a McDonald's burger with a knife and fork. But if I'm got something nice on and I'm in a nice place, I might decide to eat with a knife. I don't know. I think it just depends about where you are.
I mean, it depends as well. It also depends on how big the burger is. So if it's one of those ones that's got bloody onion rings and everything in, it's really difficult to eat unless you do break it down a bit. The other point as well is about where you are. I once had a burger and chips at the Hotel de Cap Eden Rock in Antibes, and it was £65 for the burger and chips. And the chips had truffle shavings all sprinkled all over them. So I made sure I ate that with a knife and fork because I didn't want to look like a dickhead.
Yeah.
Tell you what, for £65 for a burger, I wouldn't want any sodding pubes in it.
I'm pretty certain there were no pubes, and if they were, then they were like pubes covered in gold leaf.
I find the whole idea that using a knife and fork to eat something making you a dickhead really foreign. I just don't understand how that should be criticised. The only time that I've been criticised for that is at a Chinese, and it's when they want you to use chopsticks. But and I can use chopsticks. I just prefer to use a knife and fork. I just think it's a superior design.
I also think this. Like, I was traveling Asia for 3 months, so I did use chopsticks when I could.
Yeah. Could you imagine trying to eat a 65-pound burger with chopsticks?
I always think that I shovel too much in my mouth at once. I think I do have too larger bites. I think I need to have smaller bites. So probably chopsticks is the way to go for me.
Yeah.
Or small knife and fork.
Or a tiny little knife and fork.
So when you think about it, there's a few different angles to being a dickhead around food. But recording a podcast that's overran just before lunchtime is where it's testing my patience.
Yeah, I am hungry.
I would eat anything now, even if it had like little spindly spiders' legs poking out the side of it. I'm at that point. So I think that's a point for us to wrap up then. So on that disgusting note, I've been John Gilbert.
I've been Ian Thompson.
I've been Alex King.
And remember,
Don't
be a dickhead.